President Trump just wrote earlier on social media. Something good may be happening in discussions between the U.S. and Ukraine. It comes less than 24 hours after the president appeared to fume about Ukrainian leaders showing what he called zero gratitude to the United States for its efforts to end the conflict. Let's get right to CNN fact checker in chief Daniel Dale with a fact check on this. So, no gratitude, Daniel. What did you find here?
I found, John, that this claim is wildly inaccurate. I found more than 70 examples, in which President Zelensky expressed gratitude to the United States, to its people, to its leaders, including President Trump. Now, people might say, well, I remember him doing this under President Biden, who he was close with. I don't remember him doing it under Trump. In fact, just under half of the examples I found were under President Trump, many of them directly to President Trump, even though the Trump presidency has made up well under half of the war so far. Now, you don't have to go back far to find these examples, John. I found two just from last week, as Zelensky told U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll in Kiev, quote, "We are very grateful to President Trump, to the United States, to the entire American people." And during a Zelensky visit to Greece last week, where he was talking about energy supplies to Ukraine, he said at a press conference, "I also extend my deep gratitude to the American companies, the Department of Energy, and President of the United States, Donald Trump." And then he added, "We are grateful to the people of the United States and to the president once again." Now, after Trump's false claim about Zelensky on social media yesterday, Zelensky quickly posted another message of gratitude on the social media platform X, but this was hardly unusual for him. I found numerous examples of Zelensky expressing gratitude to Trump personally in recent months alone. On October 23rd, he thanked President Trump for new sanctions against Russia. September 27th, he says, quote, "We thank the people of the United States, President Donald Trump, First Lady Melania Trump for their attention to Ukrainians," and so on. September 23rd, he says, quote, "I am grateful to President Trump for strong cooperation with the United States. Mr. President clearly understands the situation and is well informed about all aspects of this war. We highly value his resolve to help end this war. Thank you." On August 18th, he says, "I asked President Trump to pass along a letter of gratitude from Ukraine's First Lady to Melania." It goes on and on. Now, perhaps someone who's feeling especially generous to President Trump, John, might say, well, the president's busy. He's not watching Zelensky press conferences in Greece, and he's on Truth Social these days. He's not reading all these tweets. Well, I also found that President Zelensky, as many of us just remember, expressed gratitude directly to President Trump's face on multiple occasions. And again, that wasn't long ago. Listen to what he said in August and in September.
If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you so much, Mr. President. First of all, thank you for this meeting. Thank you for your personal efforts to stop this war just now, Mr. President. And I have to say that just now our first ladies of Ukraine, first ladies of the United States, yes, just now we'll have a meeting about Ukrainian children. Thank you for Melania's personal involvement to this topic.
So Zelensky did this over and over, John. There was simply no basis for this claim from President Trump.
That's a lot of gratitude, Daniel. I mean, maybe all caps?
Sure is,
maybe if he writes in all caps, it will get noticed? I don't know. Daniel Dale, we would like to express our gratitude to you for this fact check. Let no one say we never said thank you. Thank you. Sarah?
All right. To continue the discussion, joining me now is CNN Global Affairs analyst Brett McGurk. Thank you for being here this morning for us. Look, senators who met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Rubio told them the current plan was a, quote, wish list to the Russians. The State Department denied that. But how would you characterize the details of the plan, knowing that it's not the final document yet, it's not the final plan yet, but how would you characterize it at this point in time?
Yeah, Sarah, this weekend was dramatic. I mean, you had so many leaks and different interpretations of what was actually on the table. You know, every negotiation I've ever done, particularly if you're a mediator coming in to try to end a war, the most difficult diplomatic task. In the spirit of Thanksgiving here, you want to kind of look like a duck. You're smooth on the surface and confident, even if underneath the water your legs are going furiously and there's a lot of disagreement. There's clearly disagreement within the U.S. Team. I think that was revealed yesterday in the talks in Geneva. They actually put out a statement, I've never seen something like this before, that the first part of the day was coordination, unilateral meetings, meaning we're meeting with ourselves to try to literally get on the same page. But then when they met with the Ukrainians, it seems like a lot of progress here was made to try to revise this proposal and get to something that might potentially work. And Sarah, there's two issues here. Again, if you're doing a mediation, a negotiation, You want to focus on the ZOPA. What's the zone of the agreement? There's two key issues to try to stop this war. Number one is the line on the map in the east and where you draw that line. And number two, because you're asking Ukraine to give up some territory,
Right.
is a security guarantee for Ukraine. Those are really the two issues. The proposal that came out last week was so lopsided on both of those issues towards the Russians that it was really something Ukraine could never accept. Now that's being revised. But I think this has some time to go. This deadline for Thursday, I don't think is hard and firm. The administration made that clear over the weekend. And these talks are now continuing at a technical level in Geneva, I understand. So I think some very important days ahead, but really an incredible, dramatic roller coaster over the weekend of where exactly this all stands.
Yeah, I mean, part of the drama was sort of how President Trump keeps kind of going after, or not kind of, going after Zelensky, and essentially at one point given him a week to accept the peace plan, or potentially saying the United States walks away from all this. I mean, do you think that is still a potential? And if so, what would that mean to this war if the United States said, all right, we're done, we're not going to do another thing for you?
I think, President Trump last month actually had a statement saying Ukraine might actually win. In all caps, he said win. Yeah. And now it looks like the administration's concluded that the lines in the east might actually collapse very soon. The Russians are making significant gains. I think the truth is kind of in the middle. The Russians are making very small gains at tremendous cost. And in fact, the proposal, Sarah, that was put out over the weekend, which is now not the final proposal, it asked Ukraine to give up 14% of this territory in the Donbass. Ukraine calls that territory the Fortress Belt. It's territory that's very important to their future defense. Estimates from the UK, one of our key allies, has said Russia really cannot take that territory. It'll take them a period of years, hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million more casualties. So I think having some confidence in Ukraine's position and supporting Ukraine is critical. If we withdraw support, I think morale is going to collapse and the Russians might actually succeed in winning the war. And Putin's main objective remains subjugating and taking Kyiv. I mean, that is his objective. I don't think he'll ever be able to achieve that unless we really pull the plug. Look, bottom line, we want this war to stop. I think the administration deserves credit for really the active efforts here to try to get the war to stop. But that's going to require pressure on Russia, including sanctions, continuing support for Ukraine, while also working with Ukrainians to make some compromises. You can't get to a deal without compromises. That's the formula. I think they made some progress yesterday, it looks like, but this is going to go on here through the week at least.
Yeah, and Russia also has to make some compromises, and we'll see if they are willing to do that as well. There is a lot at stake here, so many lives in the balance. Brett McGurk, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Do appreciate you.